Baseball is a deeply spiritual experience. It provides a medium of inherent connection between people of all backgrounds, and the stadiums baseball is played in often stand in as temples to the worship of this great game and communal experience. Unfortunately for us, like all things, stadiums are subject to the forces of time and progress. Despite their historic context and sentimentality, these cathedrals to baseball come and go. They disappear with time, and it becomes crucial to keep them alive with the memories they provided. Today we will be talking about one of, if not the most beloved structure to ever host Major League Baseball. Located at 55 Sullivan Place in the Flatbush neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York, this iconic venue stood for 47 years and played host to 8 sports organizations. From the Brooklyn Robins to the Brooklyn Dodgers, to hosting 9 World Series and the shattering of Major League Baseball's color barrier. Welcome back to The Bad Baseball Fan. Let's explore the history of Ebbets Field. Before we explore the rich memories of Ebbets Field, I just want to give a quick reminder to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more like it. Your support is invaluable to me and this channel, so thank you for being here and I hope you enjoy. Before anything such as an Ebbets Field was even conceived, Brooklyn had been known for its rich baseball history. Brooklyn was home to several of the baseball clubs who participated in the 1857 convention of the National Association of Baseball Players, and began hosting professional baseball starting in 1883. That professional baseball organization played ball primarily at Washington Park in the Park Slope neighborhood through the 1912 season. Throughout the last decade of the 19th century, a local man by the name of Charles Ebbets, who had been involved with the organization professionally, slowly began to buy and accumulate stock in the Brooklyn Baseball Club. By the end of the century, he had accumulated a vast majority of the shares and had assumed the role of team president. His ball club, having gone through various nicknames such as the Grays, Atlantics, Superbuzz, Trolley Dodgers, and Bridegrooms, was popular in Brooklyn and laid claim to 3 National League pennants, including back-to-back pennants in 1899 and 1900. The success and popularity eventually led Ebbets to the realization that the club needed a larger, more publicly accessible grounds to play on. Throughout 1908, Charles Ebbets managed to narrow down his location to Flatbush, and began slowly buying properties. For the next 4 years, he accumulated all of the properties bounded by Bedford Avenue between Montgomery and Sullivan Streets. And in early March of 1912, construction began on the new stadium. According to the New York Times, the groundbreaking ceremony included the laying of a cornerstone containing many trinkets, pictures, and sentimental odds and ends representing Flatbush and broader Brooklyn, and a speech by Charles Ebbets where he claimed a Derrick couldn't get him out of baseball until he had won the world's title for Flatbush and vicinity. Construction on Ebbets Field was originally planned to be completed by September of 1912, but delays caused the construction to take roughly a full calendar year, instead having the stadium ready ahead of the 1913 season with a capacity of 18,000. The field dimensions were cavernous and peculiar, featuring an enormous left and center field at 419 feet and 508 feet respectively. Right field was cut short at 301 feet, giving the stadium this unique, offset rectangular shape and garnering Ebbets Field the nickname the Cigar Box. Over time, the dimensions would shrink as the need for more seating arose, and eventually the capacity peaked at 35,000. The first game ever played at Ebbets Field was an exhibition against Brooklyn's crosstown interleague rival New York Yankees on April 5th. The stadium was significantly overfilled, with 30,000 fans getting in, and over 5,000 fans being turned away at the gates, as the Trolley Dodgers beat the Yankees 3-2. The New York Times reported the day as one of the nicest little spring days the oldest inhabitant of Flatbush could remember. 4 days later, Ebbets Field hosted its first official game in bitter 37-degree weather, where only 10,000 fans braved the weather to see Brooklyn fall 1-0 to Philadelphia. Ebbets Field's tenure as a Major League Baseball venue had begun. The inaugural season at Ebbets Field was not accompanied by success in the standings, as the Dodgers finished the year 65, 84-3, and in 6th place out of 8 teams in the National League. Moving on from manager Bill Dolan, despite 1913 being his best season, Charles Ebbets decided to snag Wilbert Robinson for the job. The team assumed the nickname Robins in his honor and saw immediate improvement by finishing 75-59 in 1914, leading to a 5th place finish. The upward trend continued, and just 2 years later, Ebbets Field saw its first ever National League pennant. Finishing the year with a 94-60 record, the Robins took the league by 2.5 games over the Philadelphia Phillies and took on the Boston Red Sox in the Fall Classic. Unfortunately for Brooklyn, they fell quickly to Boston in just 5 games, going 1-2 at Ebbets Field during the series. The next 2 seasons were severely affected by America's involvement in World War I. The Robins lost their edge during this period, finishing with a losing record for 3 consecutive seasons, as the broader public lost interest in baseball and focused their attention on the war. The 1918 season even ended early, and Ebbets Field was converted for military use. Following the end of the war in November 1918, Brooklyn suffered through one more 5th place finish in the 1919 season before returning to the top in 1920. Finishing with a record of 93, 61-1, the Robins took the National League by a whopping 7 games over their crosstown rival Giants. The 1920 Fall Classic, set to be a best-of-9 series, saw the Robins find little more success than they did in 1916, falling in 7 games to the Cleveland Indians. They did manage to earn 2 wins in front of their home crowd in Brooklyn, in games 2 and 3, before dropping 4 straight in Cleveland to lose the series. Despite Charles Ebbets' promise to bring a championship to Flatbush, the team remained unable to capture that elusive World Series. This would be the last Fall Classic that Ebbets Field would host for over 2 decades. Charles Ebbets would unfortunately pass away before making his championship dreams a reality. The passing of Charles Ebbets and one of his co-investors, Ed McKeever, in 1925 brought the Robins, and thus Ebbets Field, on hard financial times for the next dozen years. Ebbets Field was expanded in 1931, but the Great Depression made it difficult for the club to reap the benefits of this increased seating and provide upkeep on the stadium. Wilbert Robinson retired following the 1931 season, and the ball club reassumed the name Dodgers, a name that finally stuck. The newly minted Dodgers still struggled with mediocrity through the early to mid-30s, grinding their way through 3 managers, before finally finding their general manager in Larry MacPhail and team manager in Leo DeRocher in 1938 and 1939 respectively. With light towers added to Ebbets Field in 1938, Brooklyn was set to be a premier place to enjoy baseball. With the hiring of MacPhail and DeRocher, the Dodgers quickly rocketed into relevance once again. DeRocher's first year at the helm in '39 saw an improvement from 69 to 84 wins, and by 1941, the Dodgers had captured the National League pennant for the first time since 1920. Finishing 1941 with a 154-3 record, the Dodgers won the league by 2.5 games over the Cardinals and led the league in attendance, drawing over 1.2 million fans throughout the year. The Dodgers proved disappointing in the Fall Classic, especially in Brooklyn, falling to the Yankees in 5 games. Brooklyn lost games 3, 4, and 5 at home, as their crosstown rivals celebrated on their field. Fun fact, this would be the first of 7 consecutive times that the Dodgers would win the pennant and take on their rival Yankees in the Fall Classic, with the last one taking place in 1956. Even though the season ended in pain, fans at Ebbets Field were treated to an MVP season from their first baseman Dolph Camilli, after he led the league in home runs and runs batted in. The ball club managed to up their win total to 104 games the next season, and led the league in attendance once again, yet somehow lost the league to a 106-win St. Louis squad. Unfortunately, the United States' entry into World War II took an enormous toll on the Dodgers for the next few years, both financially and in terms of play on the field. Attendance dropped to under 700,000 through the end of the war as the nation's attention turned to far more pertinent matters than baseball. Ebbets Field became neglected due to the need of building materials for war use. While the country was embroiled in conflict in both Europe and Asia, the Dodgers saw major changes in both ownership and front office management. Larry MacPhail resigned in September of 1942 to serve in the Army, and was replaced by one Branch Rickey. While ownership of the ball club and Ebbets Field changed hands in 1943 and 1944 to Branch Rickey, a wealthy pharmaceutical executive named John Smith, and a New York lawyer by the name of Walter O'Malley. Immediately following the conclusion of World War II, Rickey, who was a strong supporter of integrating Major League Baseball, changed the course of not just baseball history, but American history, by signing Jackie Robinson to a minor league contract. Jackie played for the Montreal Royals in 1946, posting a .375 average, and was called up to the Dodgers heading into 1947. Ebbets Field was set to be the stage for the pivotal moment, and that moment came on April 15th. In front of a crowd of 26,623, Robinson debuted at first base against the Boston Braves, where he reached base and scored what would be the game-winning run in his 7th inning. He went on to post a .297 average for the season, leading the league with 29 stolen bases and 28 sac flies, and capturing Major League Baseball's first ever Rookie of the Year award. While Jackie Robinson isn't the focus of this video, it needs to be noted that the impact this man had on American culture cannot be overstated. His resilience, perseverance, and integrity remain a model for all to live by to this day. Jackie Robinson's stellar year wasn't the only thing the Dodger faithful had to be excited about at Ebbets Field in the summer of 1947. Pee Wee Reese, Brooklyn's Hall of Fame shortstop, led the league in walks and led the team with 5.8 WAR, while ace Ralph Branca finished with a 21-12 record and 6.9 WAR. Ebbets Field hosted over 1.8 million fans that summer as the Dodgers finished the year with a 94-60-1 record and captured the National League pennant by 5 games over the St. Louis Cardinals. This time, the World Series was pushed all the way to the brink, with the Dodgers failing to get over the hump, losing Game 7 5-2 in the Bronx. The Ebbets Field fans were rewarded with a 2-1 clip in the Fall Classic in Brooklyn, but the organization still lacked that elusive World Championship. 1948 saw the Dodgers fall to 3rd place before returning to form in 49. Drawing 1.6 million fans to Ebbets Field that summer, the Dodgers finished with a 97-57-2 record, winning the National League by a game over the Cardinals. Failing unceremoniously in the Fall Classic for the 3rd consecutive time, this series only went 5 games, with Brooklyn going 0-3 at home, and the Dodger faithful having to suffer watching the Yankees celebrate their championship in Brooklyn. While the season ended in bitter disappointment once again, it should be noted that both rookie Don Newcombe and veteran Jackie Robinson shined, with the former earning Rookie of the Year honors and the latter winning the only MVP of his career. Brooklyn fell to second place for the 1950 and 1951 seasons, taking second in attendance in 50 and jumping back to first in 51. And Ebbets Field hosted yet another MVP winner, with catcher Roy Campanella taking the award in the latter season. 1952 saw the Dodgers return to pennant-winning form, leading the league in attendance again and having another Rookie of the Year in pitcher Joe Black. The Dodgers, once again, had to take on their crosstown rival Yankees in the Fall Classic, this time with home field advantage, where they fell in a full 7 games and only managed a 1-3 clip at Ebbets Field. Improving on their 1952 season, 53 saw Brooklyn improve to the 105 win mark. Led by second-time MVP winner Roy Campanella, the Dodgers dominated the National League and took second in attendance, before falling victim to the cursed Yankees once again, this time only in 6 games. The Dodgers at least rewarded the Ebbets Field faithful with 2 wins and 3 games at home in the series. Despite the fact that Brooklyn was on the edge of having a bona fide dynasty, they just could not capture that elusive championship. The Dodgers returned to second place in 54 and saw attendance drop to 4th place. Dodgers games have been broadcast on TV since 1947, and it's likely that the increasing availability of television sets damaged the club's ability to draw in-person fans. Despite the attendance struggles and a championship curse to boot, 1955 would turn out to be the greatest year in Brooklyn Dodger history. Ebbets Field hosted the second most fans in the National League that season, and the Brooklyn faithful cheered their Dodgers to the National League pennant by 13.5 games over the Milwaukee Braves. Roy Campanella, the future Hall of Fame catcher for the Dodgers, captured his 3rd and final MVP award. Once again meeting the dreaded Yankees in the postseason, this World Series would go the distance and firmly place itself in the annals of baseball history. The Yankees held the home field advantage, and for the first 6 games of the series, the home team won the game. With the series tied 3-3, Game 7 was set to be played in the Bronx. With Johnny Padres on the mound, the Dodgers blanked the Yanks 2-0 to capture their only world championship while in Brooklyn. After decades of faithful fanhood, the residents of Flatbush were finally rewarded with the ultimate prize. The Dodgers barely missed a beat in 1956, scooping up the National League pennant for the 2nd consecutive year, as well as having ace pitcher Don Newcombe awarded with the Cy Young and MVP awards. Facing off against the dreaded Yankees for the final time as the Brooklyn Dodgers, they fell in yet another 7-game series. In the last World Series Ebbets Field would ever host, the Dodgers went 3-1 at home, unfortunately taking that sole loss in Game 7. It should be noted that Game 5 of this series featured Don Larsen's perfect game, the only postseason perfect game in the history of baseball. The Dodgers may have failed the hill one more time, but given they were in the midst of one of the greatest runs an organization has ever been on, their fans had reason to expect them to be back time and time again. While the Dodgers enjoyed a historic run of success on the field, things in the background weren't so peachy. We've mentioned that attendance started to become an issue in Brooklyn with the rise of in-home televisions, but other factors came into play as well. The SABR notes that owners around the league took note when the Boston Braves left for Milwaukee in 1953. Following the move, the Braves attracted over 1.8 million fans in their first season, then proceeded to nearly double the Dodgers' attendance numbers for the next 4 seasons. This information, combined with the limited amount of space to expand and improve Ebbets Field, made the stadium seem to, at least from the perspective of the front office, hold the organization down. Even legendary play-by-play announcer Red Barber once referred to the stadium as a dirty, stinking old ballpark. As far back as the mid-1940s, concerns were being raised about the Dodgers' long-term ballpark plans, and it was decided over time that a new venue was needed. Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley pleaded with New York City planner Robert Moses to help him acquire property in Brooklyn for a new stadium, but Moses refused. Robert Moses envisioned a state-of-the-art stadium that would be shared by all three of New York's ball clubs. A ridiculous idea that O'Malley rejected, given the club's identity being so deeply tied with Brooklyn. With both men refusing to budge, the fate of the Brooklyn Dodgers and Ebbets Field was sealed. O'Malley sold the stadium to one Marvin Crater to be demolished and developed into apartments. 1957 would be the last year in which baseball was played in Brooklyn. The Dodgers finished the season at 84-70, and just third in the National League, drawing over 1 million fans for the 13th consecutive year in Brooklyn before departing for Los Angeles after the season. The final game at Ebbets Field was played on September 24, 1957, against the Pittsburgh Pirates, drawing a crowd of 6,702 for the crisp night game. The Dodgers, in eulogy to Brooklyn and their beloved, dirty, stinking old ballpark, won the game 2-0. The Dodgers and their crosstown National League rival Giants packed their bags and headed west, and the golden age of baseball in New York ended. The stadium stood for just over 2 years and was demolished, with apartments built unceremoniously in its stead. Like I said in the intro, these stadiums, like all things, are victims of time and progress, and thus sentimentality becomes victimized too. 13 consecutive seasons of over 1 million people passing through the gates of the stadium, and just like that, it was all gone. The team, the stadium, the traditions, replaced with something like it was never there in the first place. All that's left in the wake are the fans who were left behind and the memories they share. When you look up Ebbets Field, you can find countless personal accounts of visiting the stadium and likening the experience to a religious one. If you were to ask fans of the park, they would say that Ebbets Field provided the baseball experience. The ramble of a working-class crowd who passionately loved their teams, mixed with the smell of hot dogs, peanuts, beer, and bread in the air, and the most emerald green grass you would ever see. Yeah, it may be gone forever, but the impact that Ebbets Field had on the broader Brooklyn community will stand the test of time. Thank you all for joining me on this retrospective on Ebbets Field. These stadium history videos are a lot of fun to make, so I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more like it. Don't forget to turn notifications on so you never miss anything from the Bad Baseball Fan, and considering hitting the join button to become a member of our community. It's only $1 a month. We have pretty cool merch linked below if you're interested, and you know what? If you're here at the end, comment, "It's time for Dodger baseball," so I know you made it. Anyways, that's all for now. I'll see you next time, and as always, if you like baseball, like this video and subscribe for more.